Hey, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Nice to see everyone.
Indeed. Good evening, Tanya.
Good evening. So we're going to record this this writing group session for the sake of just sharing what we do with some other people if they're interested in starting a writing group or just seeing what we do. Does anyone want to give a little bit of a preview as to, number one, maybe why they joined the writing group or how it's going?
Yeah, definitely. So I joined the writing group because I heard about it and I was really intrigued, and I love to write and I never find time to do it. And it was COVID, and I was home a lot, so that's how it started, and it's meant a lot to me. Actually, I haven't written this much in years. I feel this kind of renewed enthusiasm with writing, and also like a really great connection with you guys as well. And I don't say this ever, but like I'm really thankful for connecting with everybody in this group. I find myself like bringing it up a lot when I'm talking to friends. I'll be like, oh, I joined this writing group. Or I'll tell a funny story about something that happened. So it's become a really positive thing in my life.
Thanks, Anna. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to share. When I saw the invitation, I recognized a couple of names on it, and then thought, wow, this would be just a great opportunity to showcase much of the work that I've already written and improve my writing skills. And I found it to be very much like Seanah, that it's been motivating, and I've really enjoyed meeting the other people that are here and getting to know them better.
How about yeah, go ahead, Holly.
Right. I feel the same as Charles and Seanah, and so it's, if someone says, what have you been doing lately, then writers group is one of the things, and it has been a great incentive because we're open-minded in this group, and anything goes, and we're allowed to do our writing. And there goes my doorbell. And, no, I really appreciate the group, and that it's been a great outlet.
All right. How about the process, or how we've gone about? It's been a little bit organic how we've just started writing. Does anyone, Aleisha, how about you? Do you want to maybe talk about the process or how it's worked or not worked for you?
I think having a weekly meeting and saying, okay, you're going to write something this week has actually helped me start to actually write for myself rather than just because I write for a living, right? So it's kind of you work all day writing words, and then you're all like, oh God, I should write my own stuff, but I'm tired and I don't want to. But then you have like, oh no, it's group meeting night, so we're going to write something, and either you have it prepared or we're going to write during the meeting, and that's great too. So it's kind of nice to have that half an hour or whatever to just sit down, just get some down.
Yeah.
Batman in the background.
Hi, buddy. Had a few appearances of kids.
Yeah. So this is very much how it works. I think there's 5 of us here right now. Usually there's 4 or 5. Sometimes we get everyone, but I also like the fact that attendance isn't mandatory, and we show up when we show up. And as well, working from our own desks, our own homes, I think has been more beneficial than, let's say, going, having to get out and go to a meeting each week. I think that this has been easier for me anyways. But everyone,
It would be so nice to get together and have a glass of wine together.
Oh, that's like one of my dreams, to get together with you guys
someday
and really have a glass of wine. In real life.
Take a road trip before Nelson.
Please do.
Well, maybe
And sometimes we just get to know each other better through that, and sometimes there are very few people, and we share books that we read or movies and other experiences.
Yeah. So we typically spend about, I don't know, how long do we spend before we start on a topic? Maybe half an hour?
I think it depends when everyone's kind of updating what they wrote or what they're thinking about, or some random idea that crossed their minds during the week or something. I think it really depends.
Yeah.
Seems like half an hour-ish chatting about stuff, and then
Yeah.
we get into writing
Sometimes
stuff.
it's not been till the end of the meeting, and
Yeah.
then we go, let's write something because we've been
Oh yeah, right.
up for the
Time.
full, and let's get ready for at least some of the time. And
That's right.
it's been good.
Yeah, so we chat for a little while, and typically one of us usually has something that you've written, not on the topic, that we share at the very beginning of the meeting. Does anyone have something that they've just written this week that isn't our topic of the week, but that they've just written and want to share quickly? Does anyone have anything?
I wrote a very short haiku while I was half asleep on the couch because I couldn't get off the couch this weekend.
Not about being off the couch, but about writing a haiku.
Writing a haiku out there. No, because they're short and they're sweet, and they're 575 is kind of easy to work out. And I was just in a bad headspace this weekend. I don't know what was wrong, but it was just one of those weekends. If you want to hear it.
Yeah.
The mind is so dark, just can't get up anymore. Why do I bother?
Oh, whoa.
Like I said.
Bad we can. Yeah.
And that happens. And a lot of people, from what I've talked to a couple people since I wrote that a lot of people are going through that right now with the quarantine, and they're tightening up restrictions again, and it's all, is this ever going to end kind of mindset. So yeah.
Extreme.
Well, I revised the piece that I had done spontaneously. I think it was, I just called it 5 years from today.
Do you want to share it quickly,
Well,
Charles?
I certainly could. It's not too long. Without being a sci-fi writer or a futurist, my guess is probably as great as it is stupid. Especially when I look back and ponder thoughts from 1965 when I was wildly 25 years old. The way I was burning both ends of the candle, I wondered if I would reach 40, the age where life was supposed to start. Looking at the number of artists and writers who drank or drugged themselves to an early death, I imagined an early demise for myself. Fortunately, I managed to get hold of myself enough to run away from home and head towards the North Pole. I left a note for my family, took the bus to the Trans-Canada, stuck out my thumb, and landed in Dawson Creek. Recently, I began to worry about dying. One day after my life insurance policy lapsed, I called the agent, who calmed me by reassuring me that I had until October to die if I wanted anybody to collect, the policy going to 75 plus half a year. It will surprise me if I live another 5 years, but I hope to. It all goes according to my positive fantasy. I will be drinking good booze, smoking great government certified dope, pigging out on nice crispy pork rinds, as well as enjoying children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren from my holiday home on the moon.
Very nice.
Good job, Charles.
Love it.
The mention of pork rinds. Like that.
Well, people say that pigs are our cousins. And, I have been interested in outer space. I've often thought about the use to which corpses could be put. And of course, if you could turn them into kind of a non-plant-based diet, it would be a variation on the theme of cannibalism. It starts with biting your own fingernails and stuff.
Cannibalism. There's a book about it. Oh, that was very.
I'm sorry?
There's a book about called Cannibalism, I believe, or I think it's called Cannibalism, and I read it, and it actually goes into great detail about that, about it gives you a different view on minced, ground meat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Soylent Green is made of people.
I remember
Soylent
there was a
Green.
cute joke in a magazine which showed a bunch of missionaries kind of in pots on a fire. And one of the cannibals was saying to their child, "I thought I told you not to talk to your food."
And it
All
comes
right, well, we digress.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
Huh.
So our meetings are usually 2 hours long, but for the sake of Words North, we have come up with this brilliant plan. I think it was Seanah's idea to do kind of like a baking show where you show them the recipe, but then there's the baked dish in the oven. So this is how we would normally go about things for at least half an hour to maybe 45 minutes. As well, does anyone have anything to say about other work that we've sent to people and how that kind of has, formed into a different thing? So that the emailing work and maybe the private comments or something. Anyone?
I think just that it gets us writing. I sent some pieces out to you guys that I had submitted to the Muskeg Press, and it was not accepted. There were many applications and submissions. But it was a really good incentive to just push me to just submit something. You never know, and to go through that process of getting something into the PDF format and saying, you know what, this is just coming out of me, and I'm just going to see and put it together now. It isn't always easy to coordinate, to send it out and get feedback when you're trying to coordinate with deadlines. But along the way, there's bits and pieces that we've spoken about that were in there. And it's been just a really good incentive to just, source that creative inspiration from inside yourself that isn't related to, for some, necessarily for an outcome-based thing, whether it's it wasn't I didn't write specifically for that submission application, but I ended up going, hey, I think this might work for that, and used it as a platform to kind of go from. And then the feedback that I've gotten back from people, and just I really enjoy reading other people's work that they've sent out, because I go, oh, what am I going to do before bed here tonight? Bedtime reading. Oh, Seanah has something I haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to read that she's sent. And this is like fresh work. It's just, I love it. I really do.
And then sometimes, like, I think you and Seanah have been very good about just emailing directly to other members of the group, though we also, I think, encourage one another to put whatever we want onto the Northern Writers group, which is only available to members of the group.
Right. Thank you,
And
Charles, for mentioning that. Yeah, we have a Facebook page as well.
If we want, and I think we were kind of hoping that somebody would be a bit of a gatekeeper as far as putting it onto our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and that's still in the making. Yeah. Seanah, did you get any feedback from your writing? I think your Teeth series, did you get any editing feedback that you wanted to comment on, or anything else about the editing process?
Yeah, I did. I got a lot of valuable feedback, and it's been very encouraging. Yeah, and it's so important to have that outside perspective, even just with the technicalities of the writing. Like, a lot was brought to my attention. Like, I was putting an extra word in my sentences. I was using the word "that" too much. And Barbara picked up on it. She's like, I've got a few things, and I was reading it and she highlighted it. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been like throwing in this extra word. So it was like, I realized it, and I never would have realized it. So very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you're made aware of how much people use the word that unnecessarily, it's all of a sudden you're like, oh my God.
Yes,
And you're taking it out, and it's like, oh, said it still makes sense. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's so much more succinct. But yeah, just little
Yeah.
things like that. I've gotten so much great feedback and encouragement too. Like so many like kind comments from everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've also taken it upon ourselves, Charles, you in particular, videotaping. You I think you're enjoying the process of videotaping, which is a little clunky now, but we're working through it. So we've been videotaping things and trying to put them on our YouTube channel as well. So that's so it's kind of morphing into this great, yeah, the whole thing has been really interesting how, we started as a COVID writing group, and none of us want to really give it up, and it's changing, and we're all using our skills in different ways, so it's great. So I think we'll just really quickly show everyone what we do. Let's say that a few people have written and read some stuff over the week. You've shared it with us, Charles. You shared something, and so did you, Aleisha. And then this would be the point where we come up with a topic, and usually it kind of comes out of what we've talked about. For example, if we were going to do a topic tonight, I'm pretty sure that we would use the topic cannibalism.
Oh, God.
We totally would. That would be our topic.
Oh.
Can we earmark that for next time?
But yeah, so next time, yes, we will do that next time. But we also do this word of the day, which I think is it's a corny little thing that I don't even know how we came up with it. I think maybe it was Aleisha or somebody.
I think it was Caitlin.
Caitlin, okay, yeah. Caitlin.
Yeah.
So word of the day. So everything that we write, we try to get in the word of the day in the writing piece that we're doing. So what we do right now as a group is we put out our topic, and then we just mute ourselves, and we mute our video camera, and then we go away and we write for half an hour. And I know for me personally, I sometimes just get completely stuck, and I just say, screw it, I'm not going to do it. Or I just kind of do something else. But I'm surprised myself that I actually come up with stuff on the fly, because that's really not the way I work. I'm not sure about everybody else.
Well, I think last week the word was illusion.
Yes, A-L.
And it comes from I think it's always the Merriam-Webster word of the day that is provided, which makes it somewhat random. But I found that interesting because I think two of us read how that word was how we would use that word, and they were just so completely different. And like I wrote something on illusion.
Yeah. You, for example, so you didn't write on the topic, you wrote on the word. And sometimes I think we get people who just write something else. But what the topic that we have chosen for this week, kind of the pre-baked item, is
Cultural considerations, or
cultural consideration, cultural clashes, just culture or different cultures in general. And that came out of the discussion that we had last week, the three of us, Seanah, Charles, and I. So we're going to just pretend that we've muted and that we've gone away to write, and now we're back. Has anyone got anything to read about the topic?
I think that you suggested short and sweet.
Yeah.
And so I ended up slightly revising my piece on illusion, which is short, and I think it's a bit sweet.
Okay, let's hear it, Charles.
It is amazing how the word illusion is like a cousin to our last theme of gaslighting. To play with, to jest. But the connection does seem to contain ominous connotations. Like he, she exuded the illusion of wealth and standing, perhaps creating and living under the illusion by faking it until you make it. Reinhard Messner, the great mountain climber, liked to state that there was nothing as attractive as one who could turn fantasy into reality make dreams come true. Magic can include making something out of nothing. I think it takes both allusion and illusion to make the impossible possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Charles. Anybody else?
Well, sometimes I think for our subjects that it's a springboard, it's a starting point, and whatever is in there you're going to write about, you can tie it in somehow. My understanding was that it was cultural connections. That's not exactly what I wrote about. I have been giving lots of thought about cultural differences and clashes and stuff, and I actually am having a struggle writing about it, but there's something in there, a slow boil, but that hasn't come out quite yet. But I did write something that I can share quickly, and it is fairly short and sweet. So it comes from, I think, the fact that I signed up for an online workshop with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, but he wrote this book that I also kind of ended up caving in and buying, called The Wisdom Codes. And so he writes about the ancient words of wisdom from different scriptures. And so that's where it comes from, in my own prayers and meditation and work, which is mostly menial work. And sometimes these word ideas come together. And so this is my most recent, fresh, raw, off the press piece here. So let's see how it goes. It is no illusion. If water is a solvent, we are the solution. Yes, dear, even you. All mixed up, salty, blood, sweat, snot, and tears. There, a solution. Thrown by the waves, sinking, diving deep, a ripple on the surface. Then flowing, riding, treading, riding out undercurrents. Rising up, break through, gasping, sputtering, mind clear, lungs bursting, heartbeat a baseline, thump, thump, thump. Water is the solvent to a phenomenal solution.
Good job.
Wow.
I love that you have such a great way of reading, Holly, like just the thump, thump, thump. It just, yeah, good
You
job.
know how to read poetry really friggin' well.
Yeah.
You know, Aleisha, I like to read expressively if I can. I always have since I was in elementary school. But the haikus, has anyone here read Jodi Picoult? You must have. She's popular, right?
Yes.
One of her books, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a character that spoke in haikus. And I thought it was such a cool challenge.
Can you imagine?
To just always
Uh-oh.
It's like you hear those storybooks of like people who just talk and rhyme or something like that.
Oh, I
Some
know.
kind of idea or something. It's like speaking in like.
Impressive, yeah.
It was a guy.
Anybody else? Seanah or Aleisha?
I could read my piece from last week. It's about a page and a half, but I can try to get through it quickly.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So it's called Victor. Yeah, it's just a story that came out of nowhere, really. I can't be sure if we were ever really friends. Victor with his big smile, big laugh, big beard, and broken English. We called each other friend and enjoyed the time we spent together, but it's hard to say if friendship was really what was happening between us. I signed up to be an ESL tutor and he needed to improve his English. Upon meeting him, it was evident that he had no desire to improve his English. He wanted to talk about his ideas on society. His wife, Petra, had made him come to the center to enter the tutoring program. She was a nurse, and he was nothing so easily labeled. His education was varied: Russian literature, mathematics, a year of woodworking trades. He spoke German and Russian and English. They had no children together, but a couple of times there was an allusion to some other children, some older children that Victor had fathered before meeting Petra. He was much older than her. She was tall, steady, blonde and green-eyed. Everything about the symmetry of her face suggested she was pretty, but the totality of her being was not pretty. She was cold, devoid somehow. Victor was not as tall as her, but he was athletic in his own right. She left him in the middle of winter, just headed down the highway with her red taillights disappearing into the snow dust. We met for our lesson the next day, and I could tell that he was troubled. I asked what's wrong, and he said that Petra had left him. Victor couldn't drive, and he didn't have much money. I hoped he wouldn't ask me for money, and he didn't. He began frequenting the pub in the evenings. During the day, he walked around town. Twice a week, we met for English lessons. He once asked me if I was interested in coming to the pub with him, and I said it would be inappropriate. In reality, I didn't want to go because I didn't want people to see me with him and think that there was something going on. He had an air about him that suggested he could be a very sexual person, the way he leaned in, the way he made eye contact. We never had sex, of course. He had no desire, and neither did I. One day, Victor brought a photo to our lesson. He said he had been waiting to show it to me. He held it close to his chest, protecting it. I want to share this with you, he said, eyes wide and imploring. This is photo from best day in my life. It is special photo. Are you ready? I nodded. He passed me the picture and I looked and I could see that it was a picture of him completely naked. He was standing in front of an icy lake, his body red in the frigid winter air. There were other naked people as well. You see, he said, look at eyes. And he pointed to his eyes in the picture. You see? Yes, I said, I saw. The last day I saw him, he told me that Petra had contacted him and that she was back in Moscow. He said it was all right. He could not stay here, he said. He had made a woman pregnant. And although he denied it to the woman, he confided in me that he knew it was his and he needed to go. Was this honesty proof of a friendship? What was it that Victor really wanted from me? He left and I never saw him again, but I knew the woman he made pregnant. She was troubled, but good in nature, an Indigenous woman from a big local family. This was many years ago, and I don't know whatever happened to Victor. I see his son sometimes. He's starting high school this year. Sometimes I pass him on the street, and he has no idea who I am, and that I know so much about the father he never met, yet I will never tell him. I wonder if I've passed people in the street who carry their own knowledge of me, their own version of a naked polar bear swim photo, things I will never know. We can never be sure what floats around undetected in small towns like these.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great, Seanah. And isn't that amazing? That came out of just free writing, half an hour of us all writing. Yeah, that's
it's really poignant, and I love it. And I found it very interesting when you say that neither of you wanted to have sex, because that's something that could probably be fleshed out, especially from Victor's point of view, wondering whether that's true or whether really he did have, that his libido could be easily directed towards you.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Yeah, I might do some more on it. We'll see.
great.
Candid photo that he showed you. But that's really neat, actually, that he confided that in you. But then the sad ending of that he made someone pregnant and didn't stay with them and help them.
And I was actually going to suggest that if you're going to expand, and I'm not sure if you want to expand because it's really a good length, I think, but I would go into the son and maybe the woman a little bit more, because it's maybe not necessarily a sad ending. It's maybe she got off lucky, maybe she dodged a bullet, right? And maybe a little bit more about that, but that's just my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Aleisha, how about you? Do you have anything?
Remember, not really based on that.
Free writing and I don't
know.
Fleshed out, but
nothing really fleshed out that I feel like I could actually read a full anything, unless you want me to read something I wrote previously or something.
Oh, it's up to you.
I don't know.
Oh,
Like I said,
you can look through your files. I'm gonna attempt to do something. You know what I forgot to do is I forgot to pull up the thing that I wrote about culture. Does that screw up our video?
No.
Do you think?
No, I don't think so.
I don't
No.
know.
Okay, you guys can't see my Word documents, can you?
No.
See it reflected in your glasses.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I'm just gonna pull up what I wrote, and this is really, really raw. I didn't look at it from last week just because I really wanted to demonstrate to people just how unfinished this work is. Sometimes you just put it out there. Aleisha, you had read yours and you were like, I don't know where this came from, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I don't know where mine came from either. I'm going to read mine. It's 2 pages, and I'm going to try to read as fast as you did, Seanah, because
you're all reading like I read, and you tell me not to read like that.
I know, but we're under pressure. Okay. I don't have a title for it. So here I go. My dad befriended a black man once. It was a big deal in our small northern town to even have a person of such different skin color in our vicinity. And this man was truly dark skinned. I'd seen very dark skinned people on TV, but to see someone in person for the first time while still in elementary school was exciting and new for me. This was primarily because we lived in an area where a large population of Indigenous people lived, populations of communities from the nearby reserve or parts of the town I'd never been but knew of. So I'd seen and knew people of different skin tones. But this black man he was dark. He let me touch his arm once, and even the feel of his skin was different than, let's say, the feel of my dad's skin. It was softer and less hairy, and for reasons I can't explain, I thought overall better. Softer was better, I suppose. The novelty wore off after the first time I touched him. And my dad was friends with this black man. It felt very special to be the daughter of the man who was friends with the only black man in town. And since my dad mentioned it really often, the friendship and the color of his skin, I came to understand that it wasn't just a small thing. My dad was not subtle in stating how often he was friends with this black man. The color of his skin intrigued me for a while, as anything different does to a small child. But it soon became just another interesting but moot point, because aside from the color of his skin, he wasn't any more interesting than any other of my dad's male friends. The novelty of his skin color wore off once I understood that he too just wanted to talk about trucks and watch hockey. At first, I enjoyed hearing him speak, as he had a slight East Coast accent, but that too soon became uninteresting. Disappointingly, he was just another one of my dad's friends soon enough. What became the most interesting thing about this black man who was friends with my dad was the fact that he lived in the one and only apartment building in our small town. Now that was interesting. A real live apartment dweller. I'd never known anyone who lived in an apartment, let alone on the second floor of the only apartment building in our town. My dad pointed once to the balcony in which his black friend lived. And long after this man and his wife moved away, I would look up at the second floor balcony apartment, the white railing and the small platform, small enough to hold a couple of chairs, if that. I would often wonder what the rest of the apartment looked like after the glass doors with the long blinds hiding the rest of the apartment from public view. What did an apartment look like exactly? Did they have regular size furniture, or was it smaller? To fit into an apartment, who knew? Did other people who lived in the apartments, did they see each other often? What was it like having someone else you didn't know living right beside you or on another balcony? This black friend of my dad's would sometimes allude to things about his apartment building, a buzzer, for example, or another couple below them. My ears would perk up and I would come closer, trying to understand a bit more about apartment living. My dad would mention his black friend long after the man moved away from our small town and the apartment building that was new, that then became old. My dad would start the story, any story about this man with, I had a black friend once, and sometimes it would mention how often or how very dark this man's skin was. My dad would most often mention this friend as evidence that he was not a racist because he had a black friend once, most often when he'd say something racist and was defending himself. For years and years, each time my dad would mention this black friend of his, my mind would instantly race back to the apartment building, the balcony, and the miniature furniture, and how so many people could fit into one building.
Nice. Nice.
Who knows where that came from? It would have to be fleshed out, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. It really speaks to just that, like that lack of diversity in small towns, and just how visible people are, and just how easily they can be viewed innocently as not quite equal or not quite human. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was, my dad nothing about this man could be said without him first saying my black friend. And it was
yeah.
And it was like,
I remember when I heard that the first time, I thought how much I would like to read it, and I think urged you to put it up on the group page. And now hearing it a second time, I see why I liked it so much the first time and wanted to hear it again. And curiously, I just happened to be reading a book called The Hemmings of Monticello. Sally Heming was the woman a slave woman with whom Thomas Jefferson had 7 children.
Oh, yeah.
So of course it takes place during a time of slavery in the United States, and it just happened that I had no idea. I didn't think that Jefferson had spent 5 years in Paris, and he took his slaves with them, and or at least his personal slaves. And in those days, France didn't have slavery, so for those slaves, setting foot in France was like setting a foot into a brand new world. It was, kind of like being 18 and going to Grand Prairie and drinking, except a lot more powerful.
And Charles, it's funny because I think that's what you'd mentioned that book last week, and we were talking about Black Lives Matter, and it just kind of morphed. And I suppose that's where my story came from, is this poor black man in the town of Chetwynd.
It's a terrific story.
Thank you.
Really like it.
Yeah.
Aleisha, did you find anything you want to read?
I've only got notes, and it's not really anything, but I guess it could be construed into something eventually.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Because it was, again, with the culture thing. It's just because I grew up in a very different culture than is up here. The only white kid at a birthday party at McDonald's. My other sisters were black. One of my oldest friends lives on the reserve. My neighbors through the wall were from Vietnam. I didn't know about their culture, and they didn't know about mine. At 5, 6, 7, 8, it didn't matter. And as a teenager, it was ignored. As an adult, I want to know.
Oh,
that's kind of
wow.
Oh, Aleisha, you've got the start of some really good stuff there. Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, just writing down notes and stuff like that, because when I say my other sisters from another mister, that mister was probably one of my I guess idols for men, I guess, growing up. He was a black man, and he was probably one of the nicest men I've ever known in my life. Mm-hmm. He died several years ago, so I don't think I ever really saw him again after I turned 11 or 12 because we moved away. But I have his daughters are still on my Facebook, and we still keep in touch and stuff like that. So it's kind of it's interesting just how paths diverge and stuff. It's going from that to going from that.
Yeah, what a great contrast to my northern Chetwynd living.
Yeah, I wonder.
Not saying I'm special for it or anything by any means. Please don't think that. So that's just the way it was. So it was just different.
Where was it, Aleisha?
This is in Kamloops, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I love that area.
Okay, well so this is the end of our official meeting. We would read, and And if anyone wanted to flush out anything and send it, what we do is we send it to all of us in an email. And then we just personally reply. And because at first we were getting a lot of emails, but we figured out how to just personally reply to somebody in their work. So I think it's working out really great. And so this is our writing group. Does anyone want to end with anything before we stop the recording?
Well, I have one thing, and that is, like, I've been attempting to tell my life story. And sometimes just bits and pieces of it come. And last week, something came that I thought worthy of recording, and it is part of my initiation into the Insanity Club involved learning a game called Insanity Poker. During one hand of Insanity Poker, with Mephistopheles sitting at the table, I had a similar opportunity as Goethe's character Faust, the chance to gamble my soul to the devil in return for money and power. I declined to respond to the offer. Time was on my side.
I love that one.
Good job, Charles. Excellent. All right, with that, I think we're going to end the recording, and then we can be normal. Just kidding. I think this is pretty much epitomizes our meeting. So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions about our group, please send them our way. Each one of us, there's actually 7 of us in the group. So if you know anyone, we're missing Caitlin and we're missing Barb, but yeah, if anyone has any questions or wants to start their own group, we're more than happy to share our, I don't know if we're knowledgeable or not, but we've made it. Yeah, we've made it work. All right, thanks. Thanks to Words North and Donna Kane for inviting us.
Thank you, Donna.
Bye.
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 Hands.